Hello, good afternoon and happy Thursday. That was such nice groovy music for us to get in the mood for this great chat. I am Sarah Childs, the Executive Director of the Redlick Horowitz Foundation. And on behalf of Kathy Redlick and Rob Horowitz, who are on this Zoom with us, I welcome you to this coffee chat with Kimberly Watson and Williams-Isom. This event is envisioned as our chance as a community of foundations and funders to give a big, warm welcome and congratulations to Kim, and for us to be in conversation with her today as we embark on envisioning together a more racially just, family-centered, community-driven system of child and family well-being. It's wonderful to see all of your friendly, beautiful faces, but I so wish we could have done this in person. Since we are a big group, in lieu of lengthy introductions, I invite you to put in the chat your name, your affiliation, and a wish you might have for Kim in her new role. And if you could, please turn on your cameras so Kim and Ann can see their audience and feel the love. We had originally envisioned this as a cocktail party, a chance for us to raise our glasses of champagne, to welcome and congratulate Kim, and to congratulate the entire Graham board, really, on this terrific appointment, and to celebrate the next phase ahead for Graham as they deepen their community engagement and broaden their leadership role. But alas, we are still on Zoom. Boo-hoo. I miss seeing you all. But at least most of us are armed with a delicious cup of coffee from our friends at Brooklyn Coffee Roasters. We thank Barbara Marcus and her husband, Michael Pollack, for their generosity and service to all Graham families. As we look ahead and feel optimism for the future under Kim's leadership, we also feel such gratitude for how far Graham has come with Jess Danhauser at the helm. At the risk of getting teary-eyed, I want to tell you, Jess, that you never cease to amaze with your vision, compassion, your insights, hard work, and most of all, your good humor. The culture and results for families Jess has created at Graham is nothing short of incredible, and his thoughtful and compassionate leadership is evident throughout the city. I could go on, but instead I'll look forward to celebrating you properly in the fall. So let's get on with the program. We are here today. It is Kim's day, and it is our day to begin this discussion of what's next for our work together. And as we begin to come out of these dark days of this pandemic, and we more deeply reckon with the deep-seated racial and economic injustices embedded in our systems that serve family and children, Kim and Graham give me such hope for the future. I'm so looking forward to this conversation today, so let's get started. I'm thrilled to introduce Kim Watson, the newly appointed president and CEO-elect of Graham Windham, and the first Black woman and first person with lived experience in foster care to lead the organization in its 215 years. Additionally, she has over 3 decades of direct practice and executive management experience in the nonprofit sector. She's an ordained minister and has won numerous awards. She and her husband have 6 children and 6 grandchildren. I know her to be a roll up her sleeves, hard-charging and visionary leader with a well of good humor and big laughter. As Kim says, she is, quote, built for these times. She's joined in conversation today by Williams-Isom, the former CEO of the Harlem Children's Zone and the newly appointed Dumpson Professor of Child Welfare Studies at the Graduate School of Social Service at Fordham University. She too has won numerous awards, including most recently being recognized by MSNBC and Forbes as an unsung hero making a difference in education. She lives in Harlem with her husband, Phil, and her mother, who together have raised 3 wonderful children. Just a quick note that after their conversation together, we have scheduled a big chunk of time at the end for Q&A. We ask you to hold your questions and comments till that time, when you can use the raise hand function and you will be taken off mute. Ann, Kim, take it away.
Much.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Sarah. Can everybody hear us? Thumbs up. Okay, I'm not going to be looking at you anymore because I'm going to be looking at Miss Kim, and in this moment, I am so excited and so privileged to be here. First of all, let me tell everybody that we are vaccinated.
Yes.
And
yes.
It was very nice to come out and to actually put on clothes today
Yes.
and to have heels on for the first time and joyously give you a big hug. So that is why we are this close together. So I'm so happy to be here. I'm also happy to be here to have this conversation with you because every time I am in your presence, I feel like I learned something new and I feel like I'm inspired in a way that keeps us going. We are sisters in this struggle and I am so excited for this moment. Absolutely. Okay, so we want to get to know you a little better, Kim. And the thing that you and I talked about recently was the fact that some people are like, oh my gosh, Kim, she's just new to this work. She's new to coming into this field. In my neighborhood, we would call you an OG because you've done this before. So talk a little bit about why you are not new to this and why you, as Sarah said, you really are ready and built for this moment.
Thank you so much, Ann. And I am just brimming over with joy to come today and to have this conversation, and for so many reasons. So first of all, I want to thank Sarah, and I want to thank Redlick Horowitz. I want to thank everyone who's here today and joining in this very timely and relevant conversation. Yes. And built for this in so many ways. Built for it in terms of obviously the work that's in front of us, as you know, Sarah was describing in the opening. Built for the vision that Graham, the very robust vision that Graham has of our Vision 2025 for our youth and our families and our communities. But built for it means so many things. It means all of obviously the experience that I've had over the last, it will be 37 years, I think.
Even though we're so young.
Now,
we're young.
Yeah, that's what has kept us, right?
Amen.
Looking young and agile and what have you. But yeah, the 37 years and having started out in this work during the height of the crack epidemic, homelessness, AIDS, where folks were not living but dying from AIDS, and here we are in the pandemic. And much of what was happening in those times are still here now. And I think also built for it means my own personal lived experiences as someone who's from the communities, a lifelong resident of the communities that we serve, who serves in a volunteer ministerial capacity with our families and communities. And so on so many levels, in so many ways, I connect with this work. And
so let's get the easy stuff out of the way first, which is you and I have had this conversation about deciding or talking about, does it matter that you're a Black woman taking this position? And how on the one hand, you've heard people kind of use the word tokenism, right? Or on the other hand, being like, well, I'm qualified for this job regardless. But we talked about the fact that we don't want to lean away from the fact that you're a Black woman and it matters, right? We are in a field where 80% of the folks that work in nonprofits are people of color, and only 16% of the CEOs are of color, and that's men and women. I couldn't find a number for just women of color because I don't know how many we are. And so talk to me a little bit about that tension of, is this tokenism or is she qualified? Is it both? Can we celebrate this moment, and does it matter?
Right. So it absolutely matters. It matters in so many ways. First of all, it matters for the people that we serve, that those who are in leadership look like and can identify on levels with them, and sometimes the struggles, maybe not always the struggles, but certainly understands what it is to be a person of color in these United States. So let's start there. I think it matters for women. It matters for young girls in particular. I was having a conversation with a relative who was trying to explain to her granddaughter what my promotion and elevation meant. And she really struggled to be able to conceptualize what it, first of all, me in that role, because I'm cousin Kim, but not really understanding, because even in her world at her young age, she's not seeing Black female leaders. And so she really, struggled, like, am I really like at the top? Is this, there's no boss,
right.
Over you, over her. And so, so that, and it also matters because, it's hardly tokenism. I have earned the right to sit in this place of leadership. I've earned it, and I've done it, what's the old adage, the old-fashioned way,
Yes.
starting from
Yes.
the ground levels, from the,
from
the bottom to the top.
Yes.
So I know, from the bottom to the top. But but starting at the grassroots level and working my way through. And I will say that the grooming and the preparation at every level, going back to, again, built for this, the grooming, the preparation at every level, and then getting to a place where there was a ceiling, there was a glass ceiling, and having to move from that place to Graham, and experience have the kinds of experiences that I've had in leadership that I am clear I would not have had in other places. And so, no, it was not tokenism. The preparation and the grooming was all along, but for this particular role was very intentional, was very strategic, and was an out loud, purposeful discussion between me and my boss and Jess Danhauser, who
give him just a shout out.
Give him a shout out, who I think the world of, and the Graham Board of Directors.
Right.
Yeah.
And, I was going to save this for later, but you've talked about this, right? Because this question of right now, as we're sitting here, there are leaders in nonprofits that are right at that next level.
Yeah.
And so what is it that and I know you spend a lot of time with your leaders at Graham, but what do you think that leaders need in order to be able to be prepared for that next level? I know that there's some funders on the call who I had an argument back and forth with, like, do they need more training? Do we need more, opportunity? Is it opportunities or training? I tend to think that it's both.
It's both.
Because you can't really prepare yourself for this.
Yeah.
But tell me a little bit from as people are listening, what is it that people need so that they can really, we can see the representation that we think we need to, especially in these fields? Yeah,
no, I want to take my experience in this elevation as the response to your question. So I think in terms of practical experience, I'd had plenty of practical experience. I'd been a director for well over, 25 years or so. So, and working at the director level. And so I had that. And, but what was missing, and let me just say this too, the place where I was before I came to Graham, I absolutely loved that organization. Love them. Just if the kind of opportunity and access had existed in that organization, I probably wouldn't have left. But I knew that there was more that I wanted to do, and there was more that I wanted to be. And after doing some real soul searching and coming to the place of recognizing it's time. You can either be comfortable here and stay here, or you can be challenged and grow and move. And so I am so grateful that I decided to move. And in that moving, I've been in 4 different roles since I've been at Graham. And at each level, very, again, intentional, strategic preparation and grooming
and exposure,
absolutely.
So whether it's development,
that's right,
evaluation,
that's right,
to everything that you need to know in order to be prepared.
So it's both. It's both. It's opportunity and it's also
the training and
preparation.
Let's talk about Graham. Because I think Graham is different personally.
Yes.
Yes, you probably could have been a CEO anywhere, but I think the opportunities and what Graham means and what it's able to do in its future is special. So talk to me about why Graham, and at this moment when we've been talking about social justice and working with communities, what is it that you think, why is Graham as an organization poised for this moment?
First of all,
you're going to get giddy. She's going to get giddy talking about Graham.
Giddy and tearful. Tearful.
Okay, all right, I got you.
Because the deep love that I have for Graham. Graham is the first place that I was able to be my authentic, bring who you are to the table self.
Ooh, you're giving me goosebumps.
It's the first place that I didn't have to, pocket myself in closets. And many know of my own personal experience with the foster care system. Graham was the first place that I could be open and transparent about that. And what makes Graham that place? I think it's a couple of things. I think one, it's the commitment at the executive level and the leadership level to folks being that authentic, and the appreciation, I think, of credible. We call it credible messaging today.
Yes.
But it's that commitment to that.
Yes.
And the commitment to our kids and our families that is real. That is real. And the standards that we have around that, from the board of directors to our kids and families, the accountability exists at every level. We're an organization that believes in continuous self-evaluation. We are continually checking in on ourselves to make sure that what we do is right, is effective, is helpful for our kids and our families. And you got me started.
I know,
so,
but I think it's an interesting combination, because I don't know many leaders that say that they can be their authentic self. I don't think I was completely my authentic self at the Harlem Children's Home. So I'm a little jealous. And so I'm wondering what the secret sauce is. But when I see you talk about Graham, you talk about the love and the commitment to excellence and the work that you want to do with the community. So I want to ask you this. Do you think, and every time I call it a foster care agency, you hit me, but it's an agency that a lot of its work has been in foster care. Do you really think an organization that has foster care as such a staple of its menu of services can really be of the community, and that we, people of color, can really feel like we're not part of all of the things that keep our folks down, but that we can really do change from within a system? There's a lot of questions there, but you and I have talked about that. Pick any one of them to talk about.
So I often correct folks when they say that describe Graham or define Graham as a foster care agency, because we're not. We're a human services organization. I like to say, I think one of our staff said this once, and I stole their line because I loved it, that we're an organization that is dedicated to family and youth and family success. And I think that is who we are. That rightly describes Graham, and everything that happens is really toward that end, that at the end of the day, our kids, our families, and our staff are landing in a good place. So I would never, we don't define ourselves that way. And in fact, our foster care component it's smaller and smaller as we know that the numbers are dropping in the city. Can we ever be accepted by the community as something other than foster care? So, years ago, we became an organization that developed its practices using solution-based casework is one. And I think that process, going into what we call SBC, and looking at other evidence-based models and making sure that they obviously were compatible, but that they were demonstrative of something that we believe in earnest, that families are really the experts about their situations. They really are. And so then if they're the experts, what's our job? Is to come alongside the experts.
Right.
And when there are issues, when there are problems, and listen, folks have problems. Let's be real about it. There are issues, there are problems, but we come alongside them. We don't stand and wag our finger, you ought to do, and this is what you should do, or, get out the prescription pad, this is your treatment. No, that we come alongside and really try to understand the dynamics, really try to understand what's happening so that what we offer is helpful help.
Right.
And so
not just another service.
That's right, not another service. But let me just say this also, is that changing the image and transforming the image will happen not because we keep saying we're not a foster care agency or we're not part of the child welfare industrial complex. No, it doesn't happen that way. As we talk the talk, we have to walk the walk. We have to be demonstrating our earnest and our commitment to what we say that we are. And I know that when we show up in those ways and we are consistent and continual in that, the perspective changes.
I love it because you're putting that in your policies and procedures. Like yesterday, we were having a conversation about something and you were like, we still use the language of child welfare.
That's right.
So we have to change our language. You have parent advocates. You're changing the name of your preventive services.
That's right.
Talk to everybody about some of those things. So it isn't just philosophical. There are things that you are doing concretely to make sure that the culture really goes along with your vision.
In the medical profession, there's the maxim, do no harm. And so, it's that we apply that same philosophy, that what we do at the end of the day, as I said earlier, must benefit our families and our kids in some way. And that includes how we speak, how we communicate. And so the language that we had been using, the language that we've been accustomed to and familiar with, was language that is a part of a system that the language does not fit who we are as an organization. And so we are evolving the language that is consistent with who we are and where we want to go and what we want to be in the lives of kids and families. And so moving away from a language that's reflective of a child welfare mentality, and moving to a language that communicates the care, the healing, that communicates our genuine
partnership.
That's right, partnership and investment. The language has to reflect that. And so as I was saying before, we're an organization that is continuously self-evaluating. We're looking at what we call our 1 gram culture. We're looking at the aspects of our culture that are conducive for what we want. And culture has traditions, it has customs, it has rituals, it has language. So we're looking in all of those ways. But we're also looking at those things that cause harm.
Right.
And may not have been intentional, weren't intentional, but they do, they, at the end of the day, they don't facilitate the healing and the ability for families to dream, to grow, to thrive, everything that we're endeavoring.
I was saying to somebody that this system was not built for people that we love. It wasn't built for Black and brown families and children to really thrive. It really was built for in this idea of scarcity. We're thinking about abundance and love and working in partnership, then it needs to reflect that. So we have alluded to your lived experience. And again, you and I have gone back and forth with why do Black people always got to be talking about their lived experience so that it gives us more credibility in what we're doing? But another part of us knows that we do come to this work because of who we are, and that we may look at things differently. We may look at the kids and the families and be able to relate them, right? When I'm in Harlem, I am Miss Ann 24/7, right?
Right.
And so for those people who haven't met you before, can you share a little bit about what part of your lived experience do you think informs your leadership?
Yeah. So when I was about, I guess, third grade, 8 years old, my family, my siblings and I were for a very brief period of time in foster care. And it was because of, this was in the early 70s. So it's at the, when Vietnam is happening and, everything that was happening in New York City at the time, because I'm originally from Brownsville, Brooklyn. And so my mother shared what was going on with, we used to call them the lunchroom lady.
The lunchroom lady.
Lunchroom lady.
the cafeteria lady.
Yeah, they have a new name now. I forgot. Right now it escapes me. But she shared what was going on, and that woman directed my mother to a place where she could get help, and she did. She absolutely did. And so for a very brief period, my family touched the foster care system, and it is a part of and in everything I do and think. We talk about trauma and we talk about, the impact and the long lasting effect. I wouldn't say that, the trauma has defined me and that I'm, limited or incapacitated. It did, I think in many ways did the opposite. It made me, and it's kind of like my nature to run to the confrontation, the crisis, the conflict. It made me lean into it, and that it always informs, what I'm looking at, my approach. And as a leader, again, going back to do no harm,
right?
It informs that as well.
So sis, I said this to you yesterday. So when I hear that story, there's a part of me that understands it, and then there's another part of me that was like, if it was such a short period of time, I wish that maybe you didn't have to go into foster care in order to get help. And you had an answer for me where you you really actually thought you did need to go for a short period of time.
Yeah, there's a saying, when I was a child, I thought as a child, and I acted like a child, but when I became an adult, I put away childish thoughts and thinking. And I've looked at that situation as when I was a kid. I've looked at it again, as a teenager and as a young adult. And then when I became a parent, and now as a grandparent and someone and I recognize that it was absolutely necessary. It was for my family. The level of difficulty and dysfunction had reached a level that it was unsafe.
Right.
It was. I was the caretaker. At 8 years old, I was the caretaker of my family.
Yep.
And I can remember being 8 years old and thinking I did something wrong because we're all in foster care, because I didn't sweep, or I didn't help with the homework, or all the things that I had taken on. But now I look back and I recognize, no, it needed to happen. And just what happened needed to happen, that we came in, got the help we needed. My mother was, positioned in the right way. My father was given the help that they needed. And we didn't need the system again.
Right.
We got helpful help.
Right.
And, and moved on. And fast forward, I'm here today.
You're here today for a reason. And I shared with you that there was I grew up with domestic violence in my household. And because of the neighbors and because of the nuns at the school, we were able to get my dad out the house so that we didn't have to be removed. So I think I want people to know that these issues of safety are real. And real. We're not leaning away from them and being like, no, we never need anybody to come in and help. I think that help is needed. Our question is like, when does it come in? How does it come in? Who is giving it? And to realize that, yes, trauma does exist on both sides of the kids being in situations that are not great, and then also sometimes getting help. Okay, I want to pivot. Ready? So I said I wasn't going to talk about the Harlem Children's Zone, but one of the things that used to drive me crazy was people used to say to me, well, how is your vision different than Jeff's? Like, it was, I was like, we both love kids. We want to end generational poverty. How is it different? Right. You got big shoes to fill. How are you going to do what you're going to do? So I want to give you the opportunity to talk about your vision and what it is that you would like to accomplish for Graham at this time.
Oh, great. So our vision is, first of all, about let's it's a grand vision. I want to focus on two things in the interest of time.
Okay.
And so one is around investing in communities, investment in communities. That when we look at what it takes for families to thrive, to move from survive to thrive,
Yep.
and what it takes for our families to, and I really, really appreciate this, our families to either reclaim or claim dreams. That when you are in survival mode, dreaming is like the luxury. You don't dream. In practical terms, when you dream, it's like, what do they call it? REM sleep. You get into a deep sleep and you can dream, right? But if you think about someone who's living on the fly, who's moving quick, they don't have a chance to dream in the natural, and so it doesn't happen. It happens the same way.
Exactly.
In this other way, that it's hard to dream if you're in survival mode. And so, but the key to that, moving from survive to thrive, is our communities, is really investing and supporting, first of all, really good work that's happening in our communities. It's not just starting, and it's happening, it's ongoing. I mean, we have folks today that are joining us from the philanthropy community who know this, that the work is happening. But as we're talking about dismantling racist systems, which is the second part of our vision.
Yeah.
As Graham moves in this vision, and as forward-thinking, other organizations are moving in those in that way. I remember Jess Danhauser and I. You have Jeff, and I have Jess, right? So Jess and I was sitting, and we were chatting years ago. And we were talking about Graham's vision and just where we were going and what we wanted. And one thing that we recognized back then is that in order to move closer to being the organization that we want to be and doing what we want to do and accomplishing with our kids and families what we want to accomplish, it would mean less reliance on the restrictions that government contracts and funding that it puts, and that it would mean for us to really have to really generate the kind of funding to be able to create what we knew families were telling us that they wanted. And so, so investing in communities is just that. That as we dismantle, as we move away from these systems, where government cannot be as nimble, where they can't be as quick to change, and where oftentimes there are deep commitments to the structures that are in place, that foundations and donors can really partner with organizations to help make that aspiration possible,
so that we can do what really works.
That's right. That's right.
So we can do what works.
And so that's one thing. And so the investment in the community, and
dismantling systems. That's a pretty big vision. So I'm getting the sign that we are going to go to questions soon. What I would like is, and I have one final question for you. If you have a question, we're actually not doing a chat. We can actually just talk to you and see you. Hello, everyone. And we will be able to take your questions directly. So just raise your hand or however you want to do that, and we will unmute you. Before we do that, Kim, well, it's not a funny story, but I want you to talk about COVID. And I love the way, so the thing that I love the most about you is that your tenacity and your foresight. And and I don't know where you get that from, but there's some things that you just see on the horizon and can prepare for. And so you tell a story. We won't say where you were or with who, but people were having a conversation about, oh my God, what are we going to do? And how you were able to be like, all right, I think we got this and we're going to do it. So talk about COVID a little bit.
So before, I think probably around February, the end of February, when there was an uptick in the news about COVID and what was happening in Wuhan and what was happening in Italy and those places. I was in a meeting with a group of leaders who were representative of the city, and we were talking about, and someone asked the question, has anybody got plans or know what's gonna happen with this thing that's happening? It was crickets. It was crickets. And I was kind of like a, like newcomer to the group. And I'm like, okay, well,
and you weren't CEO at the time.
No, I wasn't. And it's like, okay, here are the power brokers for the city. And I'm like, no one's got anything to say. And back at Graham, we had our continuity of operations plan. We have our team in place. And it wasn't like something that was like from 50 years ago, and we took it out, blew the dust off, and yeah, this will work. No, it was a very strategic plan. We were ready to roll, ready to move. We had made a decision a year and a half before that to move to mobile electronics, so that many of our, not all, but a good many of our staff already had laptops. We were already on Zoom. We were already Zooming for so there were so many ways that we were prepared. And when we knew that this was coming, and again, I have lots of years in, working in residential world. And so I learned very early, you cannot wait for the storm to hit. You've got to lean in and be ready.
Ooh, I need to write that down. You can't wait for the storm to hit.
Somebody sent me a meme, that they told the storm, I am the storm.
Ooh.
And that was it. It's like, and that, that might sound a little, bold, and yeah, it is bold, because a major pandemic was coming, and kids and families were depending and looking for us to be helped. And so we leaned in. Graham leaned in.
So I love you, and I love that, and that's the operational answer. But this pandemic has so devastated Black and Brown communities.
Yeah.
I hate it when people are like, oh, now I'm finally seeing the disparities that you and I knew exist for the longest while. But as it is, many of our kids have had multiple family members who have died or who have been very sick. Our kids have not gotten the education that they've needed, lots of them before, and now even more so. We see the health disparities. We see the hunger, the actual hunger here in New York City. Tell me, how have you been able to help people with the emotional wellness around this issue and the mental health needs and the toll that this has taken on your staff at Graham and your family?
And I'm glad you said that, because that's one of the things we recognized, that immediately, that whatever we were doing for our kids and families had to be related to and relevant for our staff as well, because our staff live in the same communities, pretty much live in the same communities that we were serving. And so our clinic shifted to telehealth. So we had telehealth services for our families. And so, and to facilitate that, we, in many cases, had to provide the technology.
Right.
So buying laptops and getting MiFis for our families, getting smartphones, being able to provide them the technology so that they could be able
prepared.
For our staff. I mean, on so many levels, we introduced in a grander scale something that we call network 4-part meetings, which is like a support group meeting, and we did it at every level. Made it available several times in the week. And as you can imagine, most of what we did it to really like to manage around some of the isolation and some of the issues around remote work. But folks raised up what they were seeing in the pandemic, what they were experiencing, great loss, and fear, so much fear and anxiety. So we introduced
I love that idea. Good.
I know.
I'm cutting you off because they're doing all kinds of stuff today and they're distracting me. So we want to take questions, and apparently we have to put these on so that we can hear. I know I forgot to ask Kim tons of things. So if you all have questions that you want me to ask Kim, this is so exciting. I feel like I'm on the radio. Let's see. I'm looking for hands. No, but they're all just staring at us because we can keep talking. April, unmute April for us, please. Okay, April.
Hi, everybody. Welcome. Hi. Great to see everyone. Congratulations again, Kim.
Thank you, April. Good to see you.
Good to see everybody. I guess I have a question. I was learning this morning that ACS announced a big plan to expand the Family Enrichment Center model. And a lot of what I hear from the credible messengers in the field, thank you for raising that up in your talk earlier, is that that is not, that is the very opposite of what they are looking for in terms of building support in the community. And so we feel in a bind because we're moving in the right direction and the wrong direction at the same time. And I wondered, Kim, what your thoughts were on that.
Yes, so I have to say that I am thank you, first of all, for asking that question, April. I was hoping we'd have an opportunity to talk about it. So I am very much, I'm having a hard time with this. So I'm so sorry, I'll put it back on. So I'm very much appreciate and understand the concerns that, that are being raised for all of the reasons that
I was just going to say, for people who haven't seen the article or don't know, they're basically saying that even though these are family enrichment centers, if ACS has anything to do with it, then it can't be safe and families are not going to use it. And it's a little over $13 million. And they're saying if you would have put that money in maybe DYCD or in DOH, maybe families would really use them. So I just wanted to make sure people understood that. Go ahead. Go ahead, Kim.
And so I understand. I really do understand the issues that have been related, that are the concerns that are being raised. I think that again, going back to investment in community, I think that one of the ways forward that we know, and we've seen in Graham, our experience, in fact, we're at our Family Enrichment Center now.
In the Bronx.
Is that for Graham, 4,000 people came through these doors. And I checked my statistics because I want to make sure I wasn't speaking out of turn, and that maltreatment and abuse have not been raised up in that time. But what families have come and gotten is the help that they need around everyday, mostly and largely poverty-driven issues.
Right.
And this is, again, really relevant to staying focused on the model.
Yes.
And I think that that's critical. And that I would say is, I wouldn't call it a concern, but it is my, my strong guidance is that the FEC model, the family enrichment model, is very specific about how it works, about what happens here, how it happens, and as we stay true to the model, then we see the results. Now today, the activity is not as it is because it's closed, but on any given day, folks are coming through. They, they're interacting with the director, with the staff who are here, with each other.
And I love you, but you know that every organization is not Graham.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, this idea about if we want you just talked about how you're changing the culture, how you're doing something differently, you're changing language. That's why they're coming through the front door.
Yeah.
And so I think that the advocates have a really good point about what would that look like and what other models can we do so that it's not ACS trying to do primary prevention. Yeah,
no, I totally understand that. But again, it's why model fidelity, being true to the way that it matters. And to the degree, that, I really, like I said, I really understand the concern, that there has not always been that commitment to staying true to the model. And that is the one thing that for this to work and be as successful as it can be, it requires it. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Has to be.
Thanks,
all right, I'll put this back
April.
on.
Joanne. Joanne, you have a question?
Sophia, can you hear me?
We can.
Hi, Joanne.
Okay. Hey, everybody. So first, I would make a statement first, and then I'll segue into a question. So So I'm the executive director of the Price Family Foundation, and we've been involved in supporting Graham for a long time and before Jess. And I have utmost respect, and I'll give all sorts of approbation to Jess. But what I've always liked about Graham is that it's a team, and there's not a person, and that's a shout out to Sharmila and Bonnie. But there's always been great people, so I've never felt like it's a person, which I think is a good thing. That's my statement. My question, you talked about going into communities. And another thing I've always liked about Graham is that you're very on the ground. My question is, which communities and how do you think about it? I mean, beyond like Hunts Point where you are now, and maybe Harlem where you are now, but as a funder, it's sometimes overwhelming how crowded communities are. I mean, how many different organizations are working in, those communities that are considered of highest need and asking for support. And you also mentioned that you wanted to build on what was already there. Right. So my question is where and how, which I guess are big questions, but feel free to answer however you want.
Finding, so again, finding the partners, I think is what we were talking about in communities where we are. So, I was saying in Harlem, for example, there are many partners. And so, but identifying, I think the key is identifying those partners that, that first of all, our families, identify are giving helpful help. Number one. Number two, those organizations that are up and coming, so we want to be supportive to up and coming organizations as well in providing, whether it's leadership coaching, whether it's access to some of the services that we have, whether it's, for example, we had an organization that approached us and wanted to know if we could provide some support around human resources, as an example. So, so being able to help organizations who serve our kids and families to be viable. As far as what communities are we talking about, it's where the opportunities present themselves. We're not, where the need is. Yeah. And that has been Graham's signature, is that, where is there a need, and can we fulfill that need, and then doing just that, and to partner in those ways. Yeah.
Trying to look at the camera and look at the people. I see everybody. I'd start giving people shout out. I feel like everybody good, or should I because I could talk to Kim forever. Any burning questions anybody have? Okay, they're ready to go drink their coffee. So this is what I was going to end it with. I'm gonna take these off because I don't have to listen to our friends anymore. First of all, thank you all for joining us and for this conversation. And it is a little weird to be on Zoom, but I'm lucky because I get to be here with you, and I get to be here in the Bronx, and we get to welcome you. And we're so pleased and happy and lucky to have you for a time such as this.
Thank you.
I have admired you from far. You are a warrior. You are a great leader. You are an example to all of us. You are a role model. You're a mom. You're a grandmother. You are going to take Graham into this next wonderful sort of really pioneering frontier doing this work. And my only hope is that other people in New York City can see the great work that you and Graham are doing, and that people will look at it around the nation. And especially for an organization that takes themselves and does this internal work around, well, we were this, but now we want to go here, and now we want to be better, and what are our values, and how do we make sure that we get to our values? I think that you and this organization are a perfect example about that. So I thank you for that. And I want to ask you and give you the final word to say, as you walk into this role and at this time, what gives you hope?
I love that question. I love it. What gives me hope? I'll try not to wax too ministerial.
Sorry.
Not too pastoral.
Sorry.
What gives me hope is just that we're doing this today. This is one example of the hope. That there are, sometimes when you're in the work and you're in the, the grind of the work, because
Yeah.
the work can feel like a grind.
Amen.
You know, it's hard work. We're doing hard work in hard times. And sometimes, you know, folks get the feeling like, you know, we're in this by ourselves. You know, we're in this alone, that folks don't see it, they don't get it. Or they see it, they get it, but they're not willing to do anything about it. And having this conversation today with folks who get it gives me hope, because the changes that need to happen, and there are changes that need to happen.
Yes.
The changes that need to happen, that there is a contingent of forward thinking, and it's not one or two, that there's an army, there's enough of us.
Army of love.
To be able, yes, exactly. There's an army of us, there's enough of us together, working together, pulling together, that hear and understand the struggles, the day-to-day struggles our families are having. COVID put it on the grand stage.
Yes.
You know, COVID magnified it, it spotlighted it. But those of us who've been in this have seen it, and we've always known
That's right.
that healthcare is a problem. The educational opportunities for our kids are insufficient. That food, something basic as food, that when the shutdown came last year, that our families had nowhere to go.
Yeah.
They were afraid to leave their homes, and even if they could leave their homes, had nowhere to go. So the circumstances put it in bold relief what needs to get done. But what gives me so much hope is that there are others, whether, you know, it's those who are in GRAM, our partners in GRAM, partners who work with GRAM, and folks in the philanthropy community who get it and are not willing to give up on their kids. I am grateful every day. Now I feel a little.
Go ahead.
I am grateful every day for what my family was able to receive.
That's right. That's right.
And I was not the only one. Not the only one. And I just know that, you know, all of what GRAM is doing, all of what, you know, our foundations are doing, that it's seed going in good ground. And the harvest of lives, the harvest, you know, and we always say bumper crop harvest, right? The harvest that pushes out the harvest.
Yes.
That generationally, the impact, my children never knew the poverty I knew. My grandchildren never knew that poverty. They don't know anything about, you know,
Yep.
some of the very real
struggles.
issues. That's
Yep.
right.
That's right.
That I knew growing up, because there were organizations that my family benefited from that helped us, gave us helpful help, and then sent us on our way.
That's
so
right.
we could live our lives. And that's what GRAM wants to be in the lives of children and families. And I know that, you know, as I said, all of the folks who are here today and with us want to be in the lives of children and families. And that gives me hope.
Well, that's a
Gives me
good
great
last word.
Yeah.
And we made it through without crying.
Yes, you never get choked up.
Thank you all for joining us. And again, Kim, bravo
Thank you,
and welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you all, and have a great afternoon.
Thank you, everyone.